All right, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin shared a warm moment in Tianjin on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Ahead of the opening ceremony, the three leaders were seen arriving together before engaging in a warm exchange in what is being seen as a significant message ahead of delivering remarks at the SCO Summit. Prime Minister Modi shared on social media pictures of himself walking through the SCO venue and exchanging views with Presidents Putin and Xi. Giving a glimpse of the moments before delivering remarks, Prime Minister Modi said, and I quote, "Interactions in Tianjin continue, exchanging perspectives with President Putin and President Xi during the SCO Summit." Prime Minister Modi also posted pictures of him greeting and hugging Putin with a post that read, "Always a delight to meet President Putin." The bonhomie visible in Prime Minister Modi's tete-a-tete with his Russian and Chinese counterparts comes against the backdrop of the trade standoff with the US. Does Prime Minister Modi's visible delight send a pointed signal to US President Donald Trump, with whom he has disagreed in recent weeks over US tariffs towards India? Well, that's the question we ask. However, it remains to be seen. On the other hand, White House trade advisor Peter Navarro launched a fresh salvo at New Delhi over the purchase of Russian oil. Navarro claimed that India's elite are profiteering at the expense of the Indian people. In an interview with Fox News, Navarro defended the Trump administration's 50% tariff barrage on Indian exports and warned that Prime Minister Modi's ties with Putin and Xi were undermining global stability. He said, "Prime Minister Modi is a great leader. I don't understand why he is going with Putin and Xi when he is the biggest democracy in the world. I would just say, Indian people, please understand what is going on here. Brahmins are profiteering at the expense of the Indian people. In Indian context, a Brahmin represents knowledge and spiritual wisdom. However, in the United States, particularly in New England, the term Brahmin has been used to describe an affluent and influential person, sometimes even used synonymously with aristocrat or elites." Navarro's remarks followed Prime Minister Modi's bilateral engagement with the Chinese President Xi Jinping on August 31st, yesterday, on the sidelines of the SCO Leaders Summit. Navarro has repeatedly targeted India and Prime Minister Modi over this issue. He has previously alleged that Indian refineries were buying discounted Russian crude, processing it and exporting it at a premium. The timing coincided with escalating US rhetoric and rising protectionist measures under US President Donald Trump. And for more on this, we're now being joined on the broadcast by Lynn O'Donnell, a journalist and author from London. Welcome to WION, Miss Lynn. First up, of course, what do you make of this messaging from the United States of America? Because just a short while ago, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi was having a bilateral with the Russian president, they took out a statement saying that New Delhi-Washington ties are evolving and at a very good stage. But we're also seeing the statements by Pete Navarro, who has constantly accused India and Prime Minister Modi for buying Russian oil.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's more of the same rhetoric, isn't it, from Washington, where you can't really understand what the messaging is about. That, as your reporter said, Laura said a little while ago, the 50% tariffs have kicked in on Indian exports to America, making it a very difficult situation for Prime Minister Modi. He's basically been pushed into the arms of China's President Xi Jinping by what some analysts are saying is a disastrous diplomatic own goal by US President Donald Trump. what's he supposed to do? The need in the demand in India for crude is undeniable, and Russia enables India to pay in rupees, which is a huge advantage, and possibly the premium that Navarro is referring to in his comments to Fox News. But overall, really, it's not a good look. For Prime Minister Modi to be embracing Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is involved in an aggressive war against the Ukraine, which is an ally of Europe and the United Kingdom. And it really does undermine the message that the SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organisation, has been trying to send in its declaration, that this is a cooperative of peace.
Lynn, India has always advocated for dialogue to end the Ukraine-Russia war, and this time around as well, when Prime Minister Modi sat down with the Russian president, he asserted that the war in Ukraine should end through dialogue, but on the larger context and the messaging you spoke from the SCO, do you think that China perhaps has been successful in casting itself as an alternative global leader? Because we had those images coming out of Tianjin with Prime Minister Modi, the Chinese president and the Russian president huddling together before entering the venue.
Well, one could say that it's a gallery of rogues. You've got North Korea's leader there, you've got Iran there, trying to inject an element of ideology against the United States. It's a talking shop led by Xi Jinping, by the Chinese president. He's backed Russia's war against Ukraine from the very beginning. It's now, almost 3 years old. It's, it really is not a good look. You're trying to make out that this is a forum for peace. India and Pakistan are there not speaking. Okay, the Kashmir attack was condemned, but you've still got a border dispute between India and China. There was no resolution there, just, let's move on. I think, and I attended the forum when it was held in Goa a couple of years ago. I don't really see any progress except more of the same and bigger and better, if you like, on the side of an anti-American bloc rather than something that is constructive. China's been chucking money around for decades now with its Belt and Road Initiative. It's China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. That's all about getting its goods to markets elsewhere. It's a self-interest, I think, mostly on the part of China, pulling Central Asian states away from the American embrace. I just see it as a talking shop and a forum for Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin to at least look as if they are projecting an alternative bloc to the one that they see controlled by American hegemony of the West. I just, more of the same, in my personal view.
Ms. Lin, can you expand on that? Why do you say it does not look good with all the three countries, India, China, and Russia coming together? Because the SCO summit comes in the backdrop of US tariffs on India, 50% on India, additional 25% for buying Russian oil, and this despite Europe also buying energy from Russia.
Not to the same extent. I think that that's a little bit of an exaggeration. I guess you're talking about Russian gas going into some of the more eastern states of like Germany, for instance, of Europe. But when I say that it's not a good look, what I'm talking about is that, the Tianjin Declaration that we've seen in the last couple of hours is trying to, and Xi Jinping has been trying to, portray the Shanghai Cooperation Organisation as a bloc aimed at peace, to be the alternative to the US-dominated Western bloc, if you like, and one that can maintain a peaceful alternative global order. And yet you have support for and Modi's embrace of physical embrace of Vladimir Putin, who is an aggressor in an ongoing war against Ukraine, which has the support of the European Union and much of the Western world. That doesn't signal peace to me. Prime Minister Modi says, yeah, we should enter into dialogue. Vladimir Putin is assiduously avoiding entering into any dialogue with the leader of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. There is no effort on the part of Russia to enter into any dialogue aimed at entering the war. It's setting conditions that entail taking and maintaining occupation of Ukrainian territory. This looks good for China, if as does the photo ops that we saw in America. China wants Taiwan. It wants it basically wants impunity in its own territorial claims, and India also has to deal with that because China has a territorial claim in the Himalayas, which it hasn't been resolved at this talkfest.
Right, just to add to that, and then we wrap this conversation, India has clearly said that the situation on the border along the LAC will only have an impact on India-China ties moving forward, which was also asserted this time around in Tianjin. But thank you so much for joining us here on WION and sharing your insights with us.